Assalamu alaikum. I'm Mehernigar. First topic I'm gonna talk about is speaking in court. We use Alexa, Siri, Google Assistant, or other automotive assistants to to communicate with our gadgets. But what if the technology itself could be built using voice? This is what voice coding is. Voice we normally we use keyboard and mouse to write code, but uh, in voice coding we speak programmers speak code and uh, programmers speak code and the in programmers speak code uh, re- uh, and voice coding software's engines feeds it into natural language processing layer, whose and its machine learning model identify uh, and translate the command and finally constructs it into syntactically valid code. There are two. There are so many. There are few voice coding platforms, but but Serenade and Talons are firstly used. In Serenade, we just speak we just speak command to run code, but in Talon. We use eye tracking and uh, we can use eye tracking for moving our cursor around the screen, and here we can eliminate noise better than Serenade. And Taylor and but Serenade's commands are more natural than Talon's one, such as in Serenade. In Serenade, we give we speak at function hello to give command def hello, and but in Talon we have to speak phrase hello to give command to give the same command. While voice coding platforms require decent microphone because it needs to eliminate background noise. In Talon, we need eye tracking hardware. We need eye tracking hardware, and but there are open source voice coding platforms such as Enya and Castor. These are free, but they rely on Dragon speech recognition engine. The next topic I'm gonna talk about is 3D bone printing. In our team at University of North New South Wales in Sydney developed a ceramic ink that can be 3D printed at room temperature with live cells and without harsh chemicals. This technique will be able to print bone directly into patient's body. In this method, after 2 years of refining, the team created a biocompatible calcium phosphate material to form that can form a paste at room temperature, and when this material put it into gelatin bath or other solution, chemical reaction occurs and paste get hardens into porous nanocrystal matrix, and this material is very much similar to our natural bone tissue. But this project is now in its infancy. The team is designing a bath to print a larger sample and testing it on animals. If the print can repair large wound, if the print can repair large wound effectively. The next topic is tracking your UV exposure in real time. We know vitamin D is very important for us. Vitamin D keeps our bones strong. Deficiencies in vitamin D cause various diseases like schizophrenia. Doctors have found evidence that vitamin D can protect against COVID-2. But research also found that UV ultraviolet light can cause molecular disruption in DNA. So it will give you a damn if you get out in the sun, and it will give you a damn if you don't get out in the sun. In an effort to seek the right balance, the writer has designed a machine. This machine will tell you if you are going to approach the danger level. He used a UV sensor board in this machine to measure both UVA and UVB radiation. Then wire this sensor to Arduino Pro Micro. It is integrated the sensor reading to measure total exposure. A very small graphical display connected to the Pro Micro. It shows if your exposure is approaching to the danger level. He used a palm-sized lithium-ion battery to power up the machine. And he designed it to display the exposure graphically. According to NC Kenji's paper, 10 UV index is sufficient for someone with type 2 skin. For full body exposure, the value would be probably 10 UV index minutes, and 100 to 150 index minute will be needed. 100 to 150 index will be needed if we only expose our hands and hands and face. People with darker skin, the number will go upward. The last topic is securing US IoT. The US government is larger customer of IoT product. Most IoT to protect IoT devices data from hacking, US government has passed a cyber security law in last December. Most IoT companies this law will influence IoT security across the whole world. Most IoT companies because most IoT companies will not use resources to develop separate products for US government, and other customers will not be want to settle for less secure option. This law doesn't focus on securing individual devices by password requirement or encryption standard. It relies on National Institute of Standard and Technology to follow to set requirements that government and agencies when purchasing connected devices. And this policy sees overall security such as sum of several parts such as device cloud and communication security. Next initial rules include today's best practice such as having AR device update program. This law is adaptive. This law will remain adaptive and flexible because hacking by nature is also adaptive and flexible. But unfortunately, the law isn't airtight. It leaves open a waiver process for national security devices and other devices. And other devices secured using an effective alternative method.
Now we will discuss about the ultimate incubator. Artificial wombs are science fiction, but artificial placentas are on the horizon. The womb is home to the most complex feat of human biology. Here happens the transformation from embryo to fetus to baby. That magnificent conversation would be possible only with the help of placenta, the life-giving organ that developing fetus is tied to via the umbilical cord. The placenta swells in size. Even before a woman knows she is pregnant, the placenta works as fetus kidney and liver until the fetus has its own. The placenta starts to breathe for the fetus around 12 weeks in. One side of the placenta is fetal blood and the other side is mother's blood. It soaks up oxygen from mother's blood and transfers it to fetus, and also takes carbon dioxide from the fetus, returns to mother's blood to be exhaled in her breath. Recreating everything that happens inside the womb belongs firmly in the realm of science fiction. Still, many scientists don't know much about early stages of development. But George Michaelska thinks of creating an artificial version of the placenta. As a fetal and pediatric surgeon at the University of Michigan, C.S. Mott Children's Hospital, he often sees premature babies who have left the womb too soon. For the decade, Michaelska had been working on a solution, an artificial placenta to keep strongly young preemies alive until they can breathe on their own. Already he has proven that it is sustained premature limbs for several weeks. Building a breathing apparatus for a premature infant is not trivial, as a baby's size, tiny size and fragile physiology pose both medical and engineering challenges. Now we will discuss about the breath of life. The system devised by George Michaelisca's team performs the most important function of a placenta, and that is providing oxygen and taking away carbon dioxide. The team's artificial placenta system, the lamb's lungs, continue to be filled with fluid as they would be in the womb, and a clumped endotracheal tube ensures that the lamb won't start breathing and damage its premature lungs. A tube is inserted into the jugular vein and pump ensures a steady flow of blood out of the body and into the oxygenator. Now let's discuss about oxygenator. An oxygenator is a medical device that is capable of exchanging oxygen and carbon dioxide in the blood of living being. Within the oxygenator, the blood flows around hollow fibers filled with oxygen, and red blood cells receive this oxygen through the fiber membranes and give carbon dioxide in return. The oxygenated blood then flows back into the lamb through a tube in an umbilical cord vein. A nitric oxide coating within the tubing and nitric oxide gas within the oxygenator prevent blood from clotting as it passes through. A large part of thanks given to Robert Bartlett, a now retired surgeon at the University of Michigan who is known as the father of ECMO. ECMO is the abbreviation of extracorporeal membrane oxygenation. ECMO relied on a new type of oxygenator, proved to be a longer lasting and safe approach. But ECMO hadn't based on extreme premature babies younger than 28 weeks, and survival rate for this tiny creature remained poor. When Michaelisca was recruiting to the University of Michigan 15 years ago to build a fetal surgery program, he immediately became interested in Bartlett's work. He knew that physicians hadn't tried ECMO technology on extreme premise because they feared that systems were simply too big for tiny infants who can weigh less than 500 grams. Michaelisca was willing to try to see if the oxygenators could be adapted for use in extreme premise. The first step was to get the system to work with fetus. During the researcher's first experiment in 2007, they connected the animals to a ECMO oxygenator in the same way the fetus would be connected to placenta. Blood from each lamb's umbilical artery flowed out through a plastic tube called a cannula, moved through the oxygenator, and then flowed out through a plastic tube called and then flowed back into the lamb's body through a cannula in the umbilical vein. Michaelisca hoped that the lamb's heart would pump blood through the artificial system, but one by one the lamb's blood flow slowed down. Thus, the lamb fetus can breathe. Extreme premise infants, those born before 28 weeks, often don't survive, and that do survive frequently have problems with their underdeveloped lungs. Several research groups and developing technologies that can support premise until they can breathe their own, focusing particularly on infants at very limits of viability, around 23 or 24 weeks. The system haven't yet been tested on human, but animals tested have been promising. Here is the living proof of the lamb. Now we will discuss about probabilistic computing. Computer scientists and designers have started down a road that could one day lead to momentous transition from deterministic computing system based on a classical physics to quantum computing system, which exploit the weird and wiki probabilistic rules of quantum physics. Many commenters have pointed out that if engineers are able to fashion practical quantum computers, there will be a tectonic shift in the sort of computations that become possible. But there is a big if. Quantum computers hold great theoretical promise. Sure, the hurdles that need to be overcome to build practical machines are enormous. Some skeptics have argued that the technical challenges are so immense that it's very unlikely that general-purpose quantum computers will become available anything in the foreseeable. Others, including the engineers now working very hard to build these machines at Google, IBM, Intel, and elsewhere, are more sanguine, anticipating that 5 or 10 more years of work may be enough to bringing the first practical general-purpose quantum computers online. Only time will tell. But even if the whole quantum computing enterprise were to develop far more slowly than its proponents anticipate, one thing seems certain. Quantum computing has already inspired a deeper understanding of the role of probability in computer systems. Just as the late physicist Richard Feynman had hoped it would when he brought the idea to people's attention back in the early 1980s. But how could we build quantum computers? One way to store a bit is to use magnet with two possible directions of magnetization is known as magnetic core memory. We didn't really need the new magnet-based p-bit to build a probabilistic computer. Indeed, earlier we had built probabilistic computers that implemented p-bits using elaborate electronic circuits to generate pseudo-random sequence out of deterministic bit. How would such a probabilistic computer work? The principles are very different from other underlying the digital system we use every day, making them foreign even to most students of computer engineering. So we wanted to offer a gentle introduction to the topic, which we present a dialogue between three characters. Salviati, which provides the author's knowledge and perspective. Sir Guido is the intelligent layman and represents you, Simplicio, the uni interested in the topic at hand but provides some comic relief. Here the conversation between these three characteristics. And through the conversation, we can understand that each problem requires a specific pattern of connections. Once we figure out the pattern and wire it up properly, the p-bit circuit will give the answer in the form of configuration peaks.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for giving me the floor in the virtual discussion organized by IEEE Chuet WIE Affinity Group Student Branch. I am Rizma Samanjani Roy, starting my discussion with the topics of disadvantages of gallium oxide semiconductors and introduction and status of trending takers of modern age. We know about gallium oxide transistor, semiconductors and different uses of gallium oxide. It is vastly used in MOSFETs as a semiconductor material. We know the benefits of gallium oxide over gallium arsenide and gallium nitride. We find its good switch operating is low resistance, capitalizes on low current, high breakdown voltage characteristics, and high efficiency, which make it exceptional and vastly used than gallium arsenide and gallium nitride. Now, there are also some disadvantages of using gallium oxide as a semiconductor. The major problem is its worst thermal conductivity. Gallium oxide's thermal conductivity is only about 1/6 that of diamond, 1/10 of silicon carbide, and about 1/5 that of silicon. Low thermal conductivity means heat generated in the thermistor is likely to stay there with the potential to dramatically limit the lifetime of the device, which is really bad for any device. Also, the lower thermal conductivity affects badly the RF amplification and power switching characteristics. Another fundamental problem of gallium oxide is that it can only conduct electrons, not the holes. A good p-type conductor cannot be developed using gallium oxide. The valence band portion of the material's band structure does not have the right shape for hole construction. If there is any dopant that results in acceptors at the right energy levels, any hole generated expected to trap itself before it can contribute to conduction. Researches are going on to overcome these disadvantages of gallium oxide. The thermal conductivity problem is greatly improved by bonding p-type polycrystalline silicon carbide to the backside of a gallium oxide wafer that had been thinned to about 10 mm. We hope that gallium oxide will be vastly used overcoming the challenges of this semiconductor. Now moving to one of the most trending topics of modern age, which is ruling over the world, that is tech curse. Tech curse can be defined as the curse acquainted with upgraded technological facilities with unique models and features. Even in this pandemic situation, different kinds of tech cars are electrically powered either in EV or gas electric hybrid form. Though some of them are delayed, now we will talk about some of the most outstanding tech cars of the year. First of all, the tech car we will talk about is the electric hypercar. It is ultra affordable yet tech stuffed with $2.4 million US. It is mainly remarkable for its capabilities of Advanced Driver Assistance System, which is known as ADAS system. This car can take you 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds. It will really be a great sensation of modern age. The next one is the Lucid Air. Its extraordinary feature is its driving range having 596 kilowatts or 800 horses to power dual motors and an all-wheel drive powertrain. It claims 2.5 seconds surge to 60 miles per hour. It is built with 21-inch wheels and gives up 8% of its range compared to standard 19 inches. The car is also imposingly staged a full-size luxury sedan with a glass canopy, eucalyptus woods, and platinum trim. Peter Rawlinson, the chief engineer of Tesla Model S, says about its high voltage architecture, which can deliver superior battery discharge efficiency and potentially faster recharging as direct current station became even more powerful. In his words, this is a luxury car to compete with a Mercedes and a BMW 7 Series. They can't match our performance, not even close. We hope his confidence will bring success with this Lucid Air. The next one is Ford F-150 Power Boost Hybrid, which is exceptional for its 7.2 kilowatt generator on its wheels. It is also showing class-best fuel economy in 9.8 liters per 100 kilometers. It finds a versatile sideline as a mega-powered mobile electronic power. Its cargo box panel has 4 120-volt outlets and one 240-volt connector, a touch screen that displays power draw in watts for each of 2 circuits. Here, a 1.5 kilowatt-hour onboard battery supplies power. Once it's depleted, the gasoline engine fires up automatically to keep energy flowing and recharge the battery. There are also a robust 7.2 kilowatt generator and a fuel-saving hybrid system, depending on the model. Moving to the next model, that is the Polestar 2. It is the first offering from Volvo's new electric brand, breaks little ground in electric mobility. The Polestar 2 houses Android-powered navigation system, such apps and entertainment on a tablet-style 11-inch touchscreen. It allows users to safely rely on voice or steering wheels commands for Google Maps, Assistant, and Play Store. It works beautifully for people whose emails, playlists, and other accessories are bound up in the Google ecosystem and cloud. Delayed for a year by the COVID, Rimac plans to bring the first 150cc2s to market this year. It is a hypercar with a mere 13 kilowatt or 1224 horsepower. Rimac C2 integrates a 120 kilowatt-hour lithium nickel manganese cobalt oxide battery into an ultralight carbon fiber frame with a nominal range of 550 kilometers. Rimac says the system allows near instant calibration of dynamic torque. The scissor-doored Rimac incorporates 6 driver screens, a LiDAR unit, 13 onboard cameras, 12 ultrasonic sensors, and an exceptionally precise localization system using multiple stereo cameras and internal measurement unit sensors. It can rocket 60 miles per hour in 1.85 seconds. This system will really give you autonomous hands to show how a professional driver would do it. The next outstanding tech car is Ferrari SF90 Strada. With 735 kilowatt punch of gasoline and electricity, the Straddle gets from 0 to 100 km per hour and sets a record 790 seconds lap around the fabled Florano circuit. Ferrari engineers lightened the car using an all-carbon fiber bulkhead, titanium components, and 2 new aluminum alloys, resulting weight-to-power ratio of 468 watts. It also claims a class high of 390 kg of downforce at 250 km/h. The electric age will surely add more charms in the sector. The latest Model Y of Tesla is to raise the bar with a toast including 525 km range. It combines waterproof camera below the vehicle and it is sophisticated with its features, including navigation on outputs. Simulation awareness includes animation in the driver's display of nearby vehicles or bicycles. It can gain speed of 6 km/h with its exceptional Meridian audio system. Next, we have Ford Mustang Mach-E. Starting with its range, the Mach-E can go 482 km on a charge, close enough for a little electric rock and roll. It consists lots of EV magic less than a Tesla. The Mach-E's smartly designed touchscreen accesses 3 device modes: Whisper, Engaged, and Unbridled, that is tracked by rising and falling acceleration. It particularly shines in the passenger compartment with superior seats, fits, and finish that make the Tesla Y feel bare bones in the comparison. Its public charging is snappy with 150 kW DC capability with a tamper to 60 miles per hour. It can go from 10% charged up to 80% in 45 minutes. The Mach-E brings EV ownership within reach of more people. Finally, we have Porsche 911 Turbo S, which is fast as lightning and stable when wet. The 911 pins its driver to the seatbelts like a moth against a windshield. It goes 60 miles per hour in 2.2 seconds, which is the fastest sprint in production car history. The 8-speed dual-clutch gearbox remains an industry benchmark for its speed and near-spokey shift logic. Stability is assured with a host of technologies including 4-wheel steering, an all-wheel drive system that can transfer up to 500 Nm of torque. The 911 Turbo is already an internet video sensation for out-accelerating pricier McLarens, Ferraris, and other supercars. Thus, through the discussion, we have known about the required improvement of gallium oxide semiconductor to overcome the disadvantages of the semiconductor, mainly thermal conductivity. Then the trending modern tech cars and their features, and introduced with their outstanding capabilities and exceptional features. Thank you so much for hearing me out. Keep yourselves and others safe by staying home. Assalamu alaikum.